Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a literal economic tug-of-war currently unfolding across the globe. On one side, we've got some severe, crushing macroeconomic headwinds. We're talking things like geopolitical conflict, sticky inflation, and a really mounting sovereign debt crisis. But then on the other side, we have what honestly might be the ultimate technological tailwind of our entire generation, the explosive rise of generative artificial intelligence. It's a massive global tug-of-war, and understanding which of these forces is going to win out is absolutely crucial for grasping exactly where our future is heading.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. A stalling global economy. 2. Commodity shocks. 3. The mounting debt crisis. 4. Total factor productivity. 5. The generative AI tailwind. And 6. The future outlook.
Section 1. A stalling global economy.
2.5%. To understand just how much the global economic engine is sputtering right now, you really only need to look at this one number. Global growth is projected to hit just 2.5% in 2026. Now, why does that matter to us? Well, because a stalling global economy means tighter job markets, it means sluggish wage growth, and way weaker international trade. We are facing an economy that is noticeably stalling out, heavily dragged down by tighter monetary conditions.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that it isn't just an isolated issue for one or two unlucky countries. Growth forecasts have been broadly downgraded across the entire board. Whether you're looking at advanced economies or emerging market and developing economies, which are often referred to as MDs, almost everyone is seeing their economic prospects dialed way back compared to previous projections. Nearly 2/3 of economies are facing weaker prospects than we thought just a few months ago. So what exactly is pulling all these numbers down? That brings us to our next section.
Section 2. Commodity shocks and inflation.
We're seeing some serious compounding risks in our global supply chains, and these are primarily driven by physical constraints. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has caused massive shipping disruptions, and that's naturally led to sharp spikes in energy and Brent oil prices. But, it actually extends far beyond just energy. Industrial metals are expected to rise by 18% due to really tight supply, and fertilizer costs, those are projected to climb a staggering 38%. These are real, tangible, physical constraints, putting a total chokehold on global growth, which forms a super fascinating contrast to the digital, frictionless solutions we're going to explore in just a few minutes.
Section 3. The mounting debt crisis.
Now, these physical shocks don't just cause inflation. They cost actual money, triggering a mounting crisis in sovereign debt. However, the pain isn't being felt equally across the board at all. We're seeing a massive divergence in economic trajectories right now. Advanced economies are largely weathering the storm. They have resilient fiscal space, and crucially, they're already seeing really robust investment related to AI. But for emerging market and developing economies, the picture is pretty dire. About 50% of low-income countries are now either in or at incredibly high risk of debt distress. They're facing surging refinancing risks in an environment where borrowing costs have simply skyrocketed.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that trap works in the real world. Notice the punishing, nonlinear relationship here. When a country's debt reaches a certain high level, borrowing costs don't just rise gradually. They absolutely spike. These massive sovereign spreads mean that crucial financial resources are being entirely diverted away from important things like public infrastructure, education, and job creation, all just to service the interest on old debt.
Section 4. Can AI save productivity?
Okay, so we've seen the massive headwinds dragging down global growth. Now it's time to pivot to the structural root cause, and more importantly, a potential solution. To understand this, we need to demystify a pretty crucial piece of economic jargon, total factor productivity, or TFP. Simply put, TFP is the magic ingredient. It's the economic growth you get not from just adding more workers or more machines, but from actually working smarter. It is a key measure of technological dynamism. And here's the core issue we're facing. Global TFP growth has been in a structural decline. It's fallen from 1.4% in the 2000s to just 0.8% today. That single drop accounts for 40% of the entire global growth slowdown we've been talking about.
The World Bank sums up the stakes here absolutely perfectly. If AI generates sustained productivity gains, it could alter the trajectory of global growth and materially improve long-term income and welfare outcomes. This right here is our narrative bridge. It is the glimmer of immense optimism breaking straight through all that economic gloom.
Section 5. AI's real economic impact.
So we're going to rely on some detailed projections from the Penn-Wharton budget model to explore exactly how generative AI acts as a transformative economic tailwind. And listen,
Generative AI is not just tech industry hype. According to the data, a staggering 40% of current GDP could be substantially affected by generative AI automation. Just think about your own industry for a second. We're talking about the potential to automate at least half the tasks in occupations that represent a massive chunk of the entire global economy.
Okay, let's dive into this specific breakdown, because honestly, it completely flips our traditional understanding of automation on its head. Office and administrative support is over 75% exposed. Business and financial operations is right behind it, at over 68%. Generative AI specifically targets cognitive information processing tasks. That means the 80th percentile of earners actually face the highest exposure to AI automation. Meanwhile, lower-earning physical jobs, like construction, extraction, and healthcare support, are highly shielded from this specific wave.
Section 6. Balancing Risks and Rewards.
This brings us to mapping out exactly when these technological rewards are actually going to hit the economy. Like, when do we physically see the benefits? Well, Penn Wharton breaks it down super clearly. The adoption of AI is going to create a surging boost to our annual productivity growth. We're going to see about a 0.09 percentage point boost by 2027, and that grows to 0.18 by 2030. The most intense boost to our global economic engine is actually going to peak right around 2032 at a 0.20 percentage point bump, and that's right before the initial wave of adoption starts to saturate.
Let's look at how this builds over the long term. This timeline is literally phenomenal. After that peak growth boost in 2032, the gains actually begin to compound. By 2035, the overall level of GDP is permanently higher by 1.5% than it would have been otherwise. By 2055, it's 3% higher, and by 2075, 3.7% higher. We are talking about a permanent, structural increase in the total level of global economic activity, and it is entirely driven by this new technology.
But the crazy thing is, the benefits don't just stop when the initial AI rollout is finished. Even after that massive wave of initial adoption ends, the economy remains permanently altered. Why? Because highly productive tech sectors, the ones that benefit the absolute most from AI, will make up a much larger, permanent share of the overall economic pie. These sectoral shifts alone are going to add a lasting 0.04 percentage point boost to our aggregate trend growth forever.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. Realizing these immense technological gains is not guaranteed. We have to navigate some pretty complex caveats. Broadening AI adoption requires navigating severe geopolitical strains and potential trade policy shifts. Furthermore, there's a massive need for digital capital and infrastructure in developing nations. The biggest risk here is that those highly indebted nations we discussed earlier, the ones spending all their revenue on interest payments, could be completely left behind in this entire tech revolution.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question for this explainer. Will the unprecedented productivity tailwind of AI adoption actually outpace our severe global economic headwinds? Or will rising debt, physical supply constraints, and geopolitical conflict just drag down the tech revolution before it can truly take off? It is the ultimate economic tug-of-war of our time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I highly encourage you to keep your eyes on the data as this incredible future unfolds.